People say time heals everything, but time did absolutely nothing for me besides teaching me how to pretend. And the worst part is that I thought I had finally learned how to forget him, right until the moment I saw Ezra standing at the door of my cafe like he had never left. He looked exactly the same and completely different all at once, like the ghost of a first love wrapped in the body of a man I no longer had the right to touch. The bell above the entrance chimed, soft and familiar, and I froze mid-sentence as I was explaining the specials to a pair of tourists. My voice cracked. My hands went numb. 5 years of silence collapsed in my chest. And there he was, Ezra Lee, the boy who once promised he would never leave me. The boy who did leave me. The boy whose shadow lingered in every quiet place of my life. I remember thinking, God, not today. Not when I spent years learning how to breathe without looking for him beside me. He had been gone for so long that I had convinced myself he would never come back to this city, to New York, to me. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. It brought him back on an ordinary Tuesday, when the rain had just stopped, when the cafe smelled like cinnamon and new beginnings I never asked for. Ezra's eyes found mine with the same precision they used to find light in his paintings. Suddenly the room felt too small, too loud, too alive. I could almost hear the ghosts of our teenage years whispering behind him, the late-night confessions, the stolen kisses on the subway platform, the silent heartbreak of watching the person you love pack their life into 2 suitcases and board a plane to escape you. My name slipped from his lips. Malik. It was a whisper, a plea, a memory. I hated how my body reacted to it. My chest tightened. My throat warmed. I felt 17 again. But I was not 17 anymore. I was 23, a grown man running a small cafe in Brooklyn, someone who had learned the price of loving too deeply. So I swallowed the tremor in my voice and said something stupid like welcome back. As if those words could contain the mess we left behind. Ezra stepped inside, and time changed shape. Everything I had buried began to surface, not gently, but violently. 5 years ago, Ezra vanished from my life without warning. One afternoon we were curled up on my old couch, his head resting on my shoulder while he sketched the shape of my hands. The next morning he wasn't answering my calls. By evening he had blocked me on every platform. 2 weeks later, an email from his mother told me he had left for an art program in Toronto. A program he never told me he applied to. A program that lasted years. A program he chose instead of me. People said he left because he wanted a better future. But I knew the truth. He left because being with me terrified him in ways he never said aloud. And I let myself believe that if someone has to run away from you to breathe, maybe letting them go is the kindest thing you can do. I didn't expect him to ever come back. I didn't expect him to stand here now with a shy smile that didn't quite hide the guilt carved into his features. Malik, he said again, this time louder. Like maybe he needed to hear it himself to believe I was real. I forced my legs to move. I walked toward him slowly, masking the quake in my chest with the kind of grace heartbreak teaches you. When I stopped in front of him, I could smell the faint citrus of his cologne, familiar enough to hurt. You look different, I said. So do you, he replied, and there was something tender in the words, something both new and old. The tourists behind me cleared their throats, startling me back into the present. I excused myself, handed them 2 coffees, and tried not to crumble. When I turned back to Ezra, he was running his fingers along the edge of the counter the same way he used to run them along my jaw when he wanted to kiss me. Can we talk? He asked. Talk. As if 5 years of silence could be neatly folded into a single conversation. But I nodded because despite everything, despite the years and the pain and the fact that I swore I was done with him, my heart still betrayed me. Later, I said, after my shift. He smiled, that hesitant, hopeful smile I used to love. I'll wait. He did wait. For 3 hours. Outside the cafe, the sky dimmed from pale blue to the deep navy of the city's nighttime heartbeat. I stepped out and found him leaning against the brick wall, hands in his pockets, watching people pass like he was searching for courage in their footsteps. There you are, he murmured when I approached. Here I am, I answered softly. For a moment we just looked at each other. The kind of look that carries years inside it. So why are you back? I asked. Ezra's shoulders rose and fell. His voice, when it came, was gentle but trembling. I came back because I thought I was done running. I blinked. Running from what? From you. From myself. From everything I was too scared to face. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. Instead, I said nothing. He took a slow breath. I owe you the truth. All of it. We walked along the quiet street, the city humming softly around us. Ezra talked in fragments like each word cost him something. I was terrified, he said. Terrified because loving you felt too real. Like if I stayed, everything I wanted in life would revolve around you. And that scared me. Shouldn't have, but it did. I swallowed the ache in my throat. You know what hurt me the most? Not that you left, but that you didn't give me a reason. He stopped walking. Under the warm glow of a street lamp, he looked small in a way I had never seen before. I thought disappearing would make it easier for both of us. It didn't, I whispered. I know. He looked up at me with eyes full of regret. Malik, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't even know if I deserve that. I just needed you to know that leaving you was the biggest mistake I ever made. 5 years ago, those words would have broken me. Tonight, they settled in my chest like a bruise I could finally touch without flinching. I asked quietly, and now? What do you want now? Ezra hesitated. Then, with a voice soft enough to be mistaken for wind, he said, I want a chance to make it right. I almost told him no. I almost told him that people don't get second chances after shattering you. But then I really looked at him, and realized that time had changed him too. Not just his appearance, but the way he carried himself, the way his voice trembled when he spoke the truth. Maybe some wounds don't heal because they weren't meant to disappear. Maybe they were meant to become part of you. I sighed, rubbing my hands together as the night breeze brushed my skin. Ezra watched me, waiting, holding his breath like the answer might save him. We can talk, I said finally. His shoulders dropped in relief. Thank you. But talking wasn't going to be enough. Not for the years we lost. Not for the things we never said. I gestured down the street. Come on. There's a park nearby. It's quieter. He nodded, falling into step beside me. For a moment, our arms brushed, and the smallest spark leaped between us, something raw, something familiar. We reached the park and sat on a bench near the lake, the water reflecting the faint glow of city lights. Ezra opened his sketchbook, a habit he never outgrew, and began drawing without looking down. I watched his hands move. They were steadier now, more confident. But when his knee accidentally touched mine, he tensed like old memories had reached out to pull him back. Malik, he said after a long pause. Yeah. Can I ask you something? I hesitated. Depends on what it is. He laughed softly. It was a sound I hadn't realized I missed. Okay. Then I'll just say it. Are you seeing anyone? My breath caught. No, I said, and I hated how honest it sounded. You? He shook his head immediately. No. I tried once or twice, but it never got far. I kept looking for pieces of you in everyone else. A quiet ache pressed against my ribs. That kind of confession should have felt comforting, but instead it made things heavier. Ezra closed his sketchbook. The drawing on the open page wasn't the lake, or the trees, or the skyline. It was me, exactly as I looked now, tired, guarded, but still somehow soft. You haven't changed, he whispered. Not really. I exhaled slowly. You don't know that. I do. Silence settled between us. Warm, heavy, electric. Then Ezra leaned back against the bench and looked up at the sky. Malik, do you ever think about what would have happened if I stayed? All the time, I said before I could stop myself. He glanced at me, and something like hope flickered in his eyes. Me too. But thinking about the past wasn't the same as rebuilding the future. And I didn't know yet if we were meant to rebuild anything at all. Ezra turned toward me. Can I show you something? What? He pulled a folded envelope from his jacket. My heart stuttered. I wrote this the night before I left, he said. I just never had the courage to give it to you. I stared at it. At him. At everything we were and everything we weren't. And that was the moment the past finally caught up to us. Ezra didn't hand me the envelope right away. He held it loosely between his fingers, almost afraid it might dissolve if he touched it too tightly. The paper looked worn, like it had traveled through time and guilt just to end up in my hands 5 years too late. I didn't move to take it. Maybe I couldn't. Why now? I finally asked, my voice quieter than I intended. Ezra bit his lower lip, the same nervous habit he had at 16 when we used to sneak out to the fire escape and watch the city lights until dawn. Because I'm not that scared kid anymore, he whispered. And because I can't carry this alone anymore. Wind rustled through the trees, pushing strands of hair across his forehead. He brushed them away with trembling fingers. Ezra, I said softly, but the rest of the sentence got tangled in my throat. If I took that letter, everything would change. If I didn't, everything would remain exactly the same as the pain I had grown used to. He must have sensed my hesitation, because he carefully placed the letter on the bench between us instead of trying to force it into my hands. You don't have to read it, he said. Not tonight. Not ever if you don't want to. That should have made it easier, but somehow it made it harder. We sat in silence, both staring at the envelope like it was a lit match resting on dry leaves. One wrong move and everything would ignite. At last, Ezra shifted slightly closer. Not enough to touch, but close enough for his warmth to brush against my arm. I didn't come back to open old wounds, he said softly. I came back because I'm tired of pretending those wounds aren't still bleeding. A humorless laugh slipped from my mouth. You think you're the only one who's tired? His shoulders fell in a single heavy motion. No, he admitted. But I think I'm the only one who ran. That stung. Because it was true. Ezra turned his head, meeting my eyes with a rawness that made my breath catch. I'm sorry, Malik. Not the easy kind of sorry people say just to make themselves feel better. I mean the kind of sorry that sits in your chest for years and rots everything you thought was beautiful. My fingers curled against my knees. You broke me, I whispered. Ezra flinched, pain flashing across his face. I know. And you left without a word, without giving me a chance to understand, without letting me fight for us. His voice cracked. I didn't think I deserved to be fought for. My family thought I was losing focus, that I was too involved. He shook his head. And I let their fear become my own. I stared at him, the boy I used to love, the man sitting beside me now. Somewhere along the way, I had let anger replace truth. I had convinced myself he left because I wasn't enough, because he stopped loving me. But now, hearing him speak like this, I realized he had been just as scared, just as confused, just as young as I was. You hurt me, I said again, more quietly this time. Ezra wiped at the corner of his eye with the heel of his hand, but the tear escaped anyway. And I've hated myself every day for it. Something inside me cracked. Not wide open, not fully healed, but enough for air to slip through. I reached for the envelope. Slowly, carefully. Ezra's breath caught when my fingers brushed the edge of the paper. He looked at me like I had just reached for his heart. I'm not promising anything, I warned. I'm not asking for anything, he replied. Except maybe a chance to be honest with you. The envelope felt heavier than it should have. I didn't open it. Not yet. I slipped it into my jacket pocket and stood up. Ezra stood too, wiping his face quickly, pretending he wasn't still crying. It's late, I said. I should head home. He swallowed hard. Can I walk with you? I hesitated. His voice softened. Just to make sure you get home safe. Nothing more. Something about the way he said it made the past ache a little less. Fine, I said. But don't talk too much. My head's already a mess. His lips twitched into the smallest smile. I remember. We walked in silence out of the park, our footsteps sinking as if 5 years hadn't passed at all. The city glowed around us, soft and distant, like it understood the fragility of the moment. I could feel Ezra studying me out of the corner of his eye, careful, tentative, like he was afraid I might vanish if he blinked. Halfway to my apartment, he broke the quiet. Did you ever stop painting? He asked gently. I shot him a look. You know I never painted. His smile warmed. You did when I forced you to try. That was finger painting. 2 in the morning. On your bedroom floor. And you made a mess, he said fondly. A beautiful mess. Ezra, I warned. Sorry, he murmured. Old habits. He looked forward again, chewing on his lip. I missed the person I was when I was with you. That person left, I said. Yes, he whispered. But he's trying to come back. My chest tightened in ways I wasn't ready to face. We reached my building far sooner than I wanted. Ezra stopped at the bottom of the steps, hands shoved in his pockets, eyes searching mine for something I wasn't sure I could give him. So, he said quietly, this is good night. Yeah. He nodded, disappointment flickering in his expression, even though he tried to hide it. Thank you for letting me talk. I didn't expect you to. I didn't expect you to show up. A faint laugh escaped him. Me neither. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, just as I turned to go upstairs, Ezra asked, Can I see you again? I didn't turn around. My hand tightened around the railing. Malik, he said softly. I inhaled slowly. I'll text you, I said. His breath left him in a shaky exhale. Okay. I walked up the steps without looking back. I told myself it was because I needed space, because I needed time, because I needed to protect myself. But the truth was simpler. If I looked back, even once, I wasn't sure I'd be able to walk away. Inside my apartment, the silence pressed against my ribs. I leaned against the door and slid the envelope from my pocket. Its edges were warm from my body heat. I stared at it for a long time. Then I opened it. Ezra's handwriting rushed up at me in sharp, honest strokes. Malik, if you're reading this, it means I'm a coward. Or maybe it means I finally did one brave thing. He had written pages. Entire paragraphs of truth he didn't have the strength to say back then. He wrote about how his parents didn't want him dating boys, how they feared he wouldn't be accepted, how they thought loving me would distract him from the path they mapped for him before he was even born. He wrote about how he loved me anyway, how it terrified him, how leaving me felt like tearing out his own heartbeat because he didn't know how to keep both love and family without losing one. He wrote that he chose wrong. He wrote that he regretted it every day. And at the end, I never stopped loving you. Not for a second. And that's why I had to leave. But it's also why I had to come back. My vision blurred. A breath cracked out of me. I folded the letter slowly, carefully. My hands were shaking. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ezra's face under that street lamp, trembling with hope and fear. Every time I tried to breathe, I heard the words in the letter echoing inside my ribs. By morning, every part of me felt bruised and awake. The cafe opened at 7. At 6:53, my phone buzzed. It was Ezra. Good morning. I know it's early. I just wanted to say thank you again for last night. I hope you're okay. I stared at the message. Then I typed back. I'm okay. He responded instantly. Can I bring you coffee? I remember how you used to like it. Maybe the recipe changed though. 5 years is a long time. God, I'm rambling. Ignore me. Sorry. Despite everything, despite the hurt, despite the years, I smiled. Coffee's fine, I wrote. Bring it. He sent back a single word. On my way. At 7:20, the bell above the cafe door chimed again. I didn't freeze this time. My heart didn't stop. But it did skip. Ezra stepped inside, holding 2 coffees and wearing the softest, most hopeful smile I had ever seen on him. He placed 1 cup in front of me. Still 2 sugars, right? Yeah, I said, but my voice wasn't annoyed. Or cold. It was warm, hopeful even. Ezra noticed. I could see it in the way his shoulders eased just a little. Do you have a break soon? He asked. 10 minutes. Can I wait again? I met his eyes. You already are. He laughed under his breath, almost disbelieving. Then he sat at the corner table, watching me with the kind of tenderness people spend lifetimes searching for. And for the first time in 5 years, I didn't run from it. I let it sit with me. I let it breathe. I let myself wonder what a second chance might look like. Ezra waited at the corner table with both hands wrapped around his coffee cup, as if holding something warm might steady him. The morning sun leaked through the cafe windows, glazing everything in gold. For a moment, it felt like time was replaying itself, giving us a small, fragile do-over. My 10-minute break arrived faster than it should have. I wiped my hands on my apron, tossed a dish towel on the counter, and walked toward the table where Ezra sat. His knee bounced nervously. He stood up when I approached. "You don't have to be so formal," I told him. He smiled weakly. "I don't know the rules anymore." "Neither do I admitted. We sat. The quiet settled between us, not heavy this time, but cautious, like a new animal approaching an open hand. Ezra looked down at the cup in front of him. "I couldn't sleep," he said. "Kept thinking about yesterday, about the letter. I didn't know if you'd read it." "I did," I said. He inhaled deeply, as if bracing for a verdict. And it hurt," I told him honestly. "But it also helped." He closed his eyes for a moment. "Thank you." "I'm not forgiving you," I added quickly. His shoulders tensed. "I understand. But I'm not shutting the door either." His eyes flew open, full of surprise and something tender enough to scare me. "Really? Really?" Ezra looked like he was swallowing down 1,000 emotions. "I don't deserve that," he whispered. "Maybe not," I said. "But I'm giving it anyway." He nodded, wiping at his eyes with the back of his hand. "I'll work for it. I promise you. I'll do it right this time." I studied him, really studied him. He had grown into himself, his features sharper, his presence calmer. Yet there was still that softness beneath everything, the softness I once loved fiercely, the softness that had broken me, the softness that was drawing me in again, no matter how much I tried to pretend otherwise. "Let's start slow," I said. Ezra nodded. "Slow is good." But the truth was nothing about us had ever been slow. Not the love, not the heartbreak, and not the way my heart reacted when he looked at me like I was something sacred. A customer approached, breaking the moment. "Duty calls," I murmured. Ezra nodded, settling back in his chair with a quiet smile. "I'll be here." He stayed for 3 hours again. He read, sketched, sipped his coffee, occasionally looked up at me with this soft curiosity, like he was studying the shape of my new life. And every time I caught him looking, he'd smile quickly and look away, pretending he wasn't. It was disarming, and a little flattering, and a little terrifying. Around noon, my coworker Bree elbowed me. "New boyfriend?" she teased. I rolled my eyes. "Old complication." She followed my gaze to Ezra. Her eyebrows rose. "Damn. Tall, artsy, sad-looking. Your type. Don't make it a thing." "It's already a thing," she said, smirking. "The man hasn't blinked since you walked past him. I'm surprised he remembers how to breathe." I sighed. "It's complicated." "You say complicated like it isn't just a fancy word for, I still love him." I shot her a look. "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." Before I could respond, Ezra stood up and walked toward the counter. My pulse jumped. "Hey," he said softly. "I'm heading out for a bit. I have a meeting with a gallery." "A gallery?" I asked. He nodded. "A friend of mine from the program connected me. They're looking for new artists to feature." "That's great, Ezra." "Yeah," he said with a small smile. "It feels big." There was something glowing behind his eyes, something determined, something hopeful. "I'll stop by later," he added. "If that's okay." "Yeah," I said before I could stop myself. "It's okay." He hesitated, then lifted a hand like he was about to touch my arm. But at the last second, he pulled back. "I'll see you soon, Malik." He walked out, and the cafe suddenly felt a little colder. Bree let out a low whistle. "Wow, and you're telling me that's not something?" "It's something," I murmured. "I just don't know what yet." Ezra didn't come back that afternoon, or that evening. I told myself he was busy, that the gallery meeting ran long, that he had errands or family or 100 other reasons not to show up. But something about the silence buzzed wrong in the back of my mind. By 9, the cafe closed and the streets had emptied into a quiet hum. I walked home, hands tucked into my jacket, mind spiraling through possibilities. At home, my phone buzzed. Ezra, are you awake? I exhaled, relief flooding in. Me, yeah. Ezra. Can I call? My throat tightened. Me call. Seconds later, my phone rang. I answered on the second ring. Hi, he said softly. Hi. I'm sorry I didn't stop by. The meeting ran long. Then I went to see my mom. It was a lot. You okay? Yeah, he said, though his voice sounded small. Kind of. What happened? There was a long pause. She asked about you. My heart stilled. He continued. She wanted to know if I'd seen you, if we talked, if I apologized. A quiet breath. She said she was wrong to push me away from you. I blinked, stunned. She said that. Yeah, he whispered. She said 5 years is a long time to be stubborn. I didn't know what to say. I'd spent years imagining what I'd say if I ever saw his mother again. And none of those scenarios included her admitting she made a mistake. She asked me, Ezra said, voice shaking, if I'm still in love with you. The silence that followed was sharp and electric. Ezra, I breathed. And I told her yes. My pulse stumbled. He continued before I could respond. I don't want to overwhelm you. And I know I said slow. I meant it. But I also promised myself I'd be honest this time. I'm still in love with you, Malik. I never stopped. I pressed a hand to my chest. My heart felt too big for my ribs. You don't have to say anything, he added quickly. I just needed you to know. I sat on the edge of my bed, letting his words sink into the places I thought I had sealed shut. Finally, I whispered, Ezra, I'm not ready. I know, he said gently. I'm not asking you to be. I'm just asking you not to shut me out. My eyes stung suddenly. I'm not shutting you out. Good, he murmured. That's enough for me. We stayed on the phone for another hour, not talking about love or pain or the past, just talking about his meeting, about the gallery space, about the apartment he rented in Queens, about the stupid pigeon that kept landing on my fire escape. Felt almost normal, almost healing. When we finally hung up, something inside me felt different. Warmer, softer, braver. Days passed. We saw each other often, but never too close, never too fast. Coffee breaks, short walks, long talks, quiet moments where he sketched while I closed the cafe. One evening, he showed me a painting he'd been working on. It was of the Brooklyn Bridge at dusk, 2 silhouettes standing close but not touching. He looked at me nervously. It's us, he said. I know, I whispered. Too much. No, I said after a moment. It's honest. He smiled with relief. Slowly, painfully, beautifully, something between us began to rebuild. 2 weeks later, his gallery debut arrived. I stood in the middle of the crowded room, feeling out of place among the artists and critics. Ezra, wearing a dark green button-up, moved through the crowd like light itself, confident, radiant, alive. When he finally spotted me, his face brightened in a way that made the entire room disappear. You came, he breathed. Of course I came. He stepped closer. Can I show you something? He guided me to the final piece on the wall. It wasn't the bridge painting. It was a portrait of me, not sad, not broken, but hopeful, stronger, more loved. The breath left my lungs. Ezra, I painted it, he said quietly. Because this is how I see you now. I swallowed hard. You shouldn't. But I do. His voice trembled. And I want you to know something. I'm not running anymore. I'm not choosing fear or family expectations or distance. I'm choosing you. I don't expect you to choose me back today. Or tomorrow. Or ever if you decide you can't. But I needed you to see what's in my heart. My eyes burned. Ezra, stop, I whispered. But he shook his head. No, not this time. I spent 5 years being silent. I'm done with silence. He took a careful step closer. You don't owe me anything, he said. Not forgiveness, not love, not a second chance. But if you let me, I want to earn a place in your life again. Slowly, patiently, honestly. I closed my eyes. His voice softened. Malik, can I hold your hand? The question broke me. When I opened my eyes, he was watching me with every emotion he'd ever refused to say out loud. I reached for him, our fingers intertwined. Warm, familiar, right? Ezra exhaled shakily, as if he'd been holding that breath for years. Is this okay? He whispered. Yes, I said softly. It's okay. For a moment, we simply stood there, hands clasped, surrounded by strangers yet feeling completely alone. Ezra squeezed my hand gently. I missed you, he murmured. I know, I said. I missed you too. He looked relieved, grateful, a little undone. Malik, he said quietly. Yeah, I want to earn your love back. Fully, carefully, not by running, not by hiding, but by staying. I stepped a little closer. Then stay. His breath trembled. I will. And for the first time in 5 years, I believed him. The gallery lights glowed around us. The city hummed outside. The years we lost softened, losing their sharp edges, making room for something new. Not the past, not the pain, but a future. A slow, steady, hopeful future. Ezra lifted our joined hands, pressing his forehead against mine. I'm home, he whispered. And for the first time since he left, so was I. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.